144a towards the bottom, what I recall. A new piece. Amarav Yehuda Amarav. Take a look in the art scroll. It's 44a3. 44a3. You sent to the group, Adam? Very good. Okay. Um, 44a3 towards the end. Amar Yehuda Marav Mita Sheyichada Lamos. Also the Taltula, right? So here we're talking about a bed that was. We're continuing. The Gemara is continuing focusing on Mukseh, right? You see, there's so much discussion on Mukseh. I think the fact that we see there's so much discussion in the Gemara about Mukseh should give us a appreciation of the laws of Mukseh, of how serious the laws of Mukseh are. You had a bed that you designated that bed that's like a chest of something that but you call it a bed, that you use it to keep your money, you store your money on it, you leave your money on that, that's where you store your money. So also so that now you want to move it on Shabbat. Let's say you want to move that bed, but that bed, even if there's no money on the bed, but the fact that the bed is designated for money use, Rashi says that it is forbidden just by designating it for use, for a muksa use. Rashi says even though the Gemara is understanding that even though you never put money on the bed before, not the way we seem to open up, you designated it for money, you never used it yet for money, but that it's like you have a wallet. A wallet is used for money. Even if you didn't use the wallet yet, but it's used for money. So similarly, that's what the Gemara is saying, that this was something the Gemara is saying that therefore that would be mukseh. Now, the question is, does something become mukseh just by designating it for a forbidden use, even if I never actually used it for forbidden use yet? If I would have used it for money, if the wallet would have been used for money, or now the wallet might not be a good example because a wallet is generally used for money purposes. A bed is not usually used for money, to store money. So maybe that might be a distinction. We'll have to see. But we're talking about a bed that was designated for money use, but I never used it yet for that purpose. So Rabbi Yehuda says, Rav, it's still mukseh. That bed is forbidden to move. Just like I can't move money, can't move that bed. So Meitivei, so the Gemara challenges Rav Nachman Meitivei. Rav Nachman Yitzchak asked the question from our Mishnah. Mitaltalin nechadash. Our Mishnah stated you could move a new lamp. A new lamp, meaning we're talking about earthenware lamp. So if it's new, it was never used before. So we said it's still not disgusting because we said earthenware, once it's used, it gets, the oil gets absorbed into the lamp, and it's and it's not and it's disgusting. And there's an opinion that says that will make it muksa, but here it was never used before. So you have like an oil lamp that was never used before. And the question is, what status does that lamp have? Is it mukseh? So we have the Mishnah stated, at least one opinion in the Mishnah, that says that if it's new, it's not a problem. Of a lo yashan, you can't move an old lamp that was once used. That would be a problem. That would be a mukseh. But if it was never used before, even though what's the point of the lamp? What's the point of that candle, well, the earthenware lamp? It's used for lighting purposes. But as long as you didn't use it yet, it says that it's not mukseh. And now the Gemara continues. Now we're turning the page to Mem Dalet on base. Uma ner, a ner de lahachi avida. A ner is made for that purpose. What is a ner made for? What is a lamp made for? For burning. Ma ner de lahachi avida. It's made for burning. Nevertheless, kilo hidlik ba. But when you did not use it for lighting purposes yet, shari l'taltala, you're allowed to move it. It doesn't have the status of mukseh. Even though, what do I plan on doing with this lamp? I'm going to use it to burn candles on it. But if I didn't use it yet, it's not mukseh. Just came fresh out of the box, right? Like according to this, again, we'll have to see what the halacha is. But according to this, it would come out, you take a menorah, a candlestick out of the box. It was new candlestick, right? This opinion, at least in the Gemara, will say that candlestick will not be mukseh. If you want to go ahead and handle it on the Shabbat, if it was never used, even though what are you using a candlestick for? Using a candlestick for lighting purposes. But this opinion is saying that the fact that it's going to be used for that purpose and it's designated for that purpose, but it was never used for that purpose, it's not mukseh. It's not separated from you yet. Right? That is at least that is opinion. I'm not saying that's the halacha, but the Gemara is saying if our Mishnah is saying ki if you didn't light it, you could go ahead and move it. So mita, a bed, the lav, a bed is the lav lahachi avida. It's not made for money purposes, right? A bed is made to sleep on, never or sit on. Yet, so lo kosher came certainly by designating the bed for use for money should not be more strict than a lamp that was something designated for burning, and by naturally it's designated for burning. I don't even have to have in mind. It's that's the norm. The norm is it's for burning. If the lamp is not mukseh, so certainly if it was never used, certainly the bed is not mukseh.
Right.
Right? Because what would you say is more mukseh? A lamp, an oil candlestick, or a oil stick, whatever oil menorah, or would you say a bed? We say an oil menorah because what's the word? Innately, it's made for that purpose. It's an automatic.
You don't have to
Think about it, right? It's automatically made for forbidden use. And nevertheless, if you say over there that it is not mukseh by unless you used it, certainly the bed should not be mukseh if it was never used for money purposes. So the Gemara says, "Ela yitma hachi yitma." You have to say something else. Omar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Mita sheyichta lamot. If you have a bed that was designated for money purposes, so now it depends. So if I designated it for money purposes, this bed, so haniach alav mot. If I went ahead and I put money on the bed, right? This bed that was designated for money purposes, that's not going to make it. The Gemara is saying that will not make it mukseh. Because the bed, it's true. I said I'm going to use it for money. I never used it for money yet. So it might not be so much separated from me from use if I decide I want to use it for some other permitted purposes. But if I designated the bed for money purposes, Meet the sheikh de lamot. I designated for money purposes. Heniach aleh mot. If I place money on that bed, right? The bed I designated for money. If I place money on the bed, so then even though now I took the money off before Shabbat, but once it was designated for money use and it was what actually used for that purpose, heniach aleh mot. I placed money on it. So also now I can't move that bed because the bed has been used for that designation of money. But and therefore it becomes mukseh. It's separated from my use because this bed already is designated for not for permitted use. It's designated for what the use. It's designated for placing money on it, storing money on it. But if I designated it for use of money to store money on it, but I never yet put the money on it, so I'm allowed to go ahead and move and move it. Um, but if I get so look, if I never put the money on it, so again, let's get the case again. Meet if it doesn't for money. If I put money on it, then it's not allowed to move it. If I never put money on it, I can move it. Now, if the bed was not designated for money, right? I have a bed, and it's a normal bed. What is a normal bed? A normal bed is not designated for money use. A normal bed is made for sleeping purposes. So a bed is not mukseh. When I move my bed, it's not mukseh, right? So if I did not designate it for money, yesh aleha ma'ot. If if let's say there is money on the bed when Shabbat comes, if there's money on the bed when Shabbat comes, so then I can't move the bed, right? Also l'taltala. So I can't move the bed because the bed has is supporting muksa. And the question is, did I leave the money there before Shabbat with the intention for the bed to support the money? So then, if I intended that the bed to support the money, so then the bed is called the basis, right? We have a rule that we learned about something that holds mukseh. See, let's take a look at this stender, whatever you call this thing that's holding the computer. If I put the computer on, let's say it's off, but I put it before Shabbat. I want to leave the computer in my house. Let's say I have this type of holding this thing that holds the computer. It's like it's a little table that I put the computer on. So the table has the same status of the computer. If it's supporting the computer, the same way whatever level muksa the computer has, the table has. I intend that the table should be there to support the muksa. If I did not intend for the table to be there to support the muksa, so and then someone put the computer on top of the table, so then the table will not have a status of muksa like the item itself, but I will not be able to pick up the table, move the table for the purpose of I want the computer at a different area of the house, because I'm picking up, we spoke about tiltum minatzat, carrying it on the side for the purpose of the muksa would be a problem. So here we're saying is that I did not designate, right? If I did not designate the bed for mukseh, for money, so if it has money on it, then it's mukseh because I either either if I intended to leave the money there, then the bed will be mukseh. And by the way, even if subsequently the money is knocked off, let's say if I knock off the money like with my elbow, but once the bed was supporting the mukseh and was there intentionally to support the mukseh, it has a status of the mukseh even when the mukseh leaves it. Once it becomes mukseh when Shabbat becomes, if it was there when Shabbat came, become mukseh for the whole Shabbat. But if the bed was not designated for money, and now I had money on it before Shabbat, but before Shabbat there was no money on it. So then, ein aleh ma'od, if there's no money on the bed, mutar l'taltala. The fact that the bed was used for money during the week, but this was not the sole designation. It wasn't it wasn't designated for the purpose of using money, right? What then? If then who shalo, I can move the bed on Shabbat. Who shalo as long as there was no money on the bed when Shabbat began.
And that's in a case where you had designated the bed for.
No, I didn't. I didn't designate the bed. Right.
So if you couldn't move the bed there, then by that, if you weren't able to move the bed in that situation, that would mean you can't really move any furniture that ever had money on it, right? That's
Right. So we're saying, and we're right. We're saying, right. We're saying there's no problem if you had furniture and you had intended, let's say you have furniture, and during the week, sometimes during the weekdays, you intend to you didn't designate it for money, but you put money on the furniture.
or you put any electronic
Right.
device
Right.
that would cover that.
Right. And any electronic device, and you put it on the furniture, but you didn't designate the furniture for the purpose of supporting the electric device. Now, there are people that I'm going to keep my electric device always on this piece of furniture, right? If I do that, then the furniture becomes mokseh.
You mean keep it there always, like,
Let's say a television.
oh, so wherever
If
sits on all the time.
right, if I have right, if I have a chest and I have right a comment morning, I have a chest and or have a what do you call it, a dresser, and I place a television on top of the dresser. And my intention is I'm designating the dresser to support the muktzeh. Now, the question we have to ask is since the dresser is really being used in a different fashion because it's being used for the dresser purposes, not just support. It's not there just to support the muktzeh. So we have to look how we would identify a dresser. But if let's see the dresser we take clothing out of the dresser and so. Well, let's say you have something that you don't. So that's what we have to look up. How would we look at that dresser? But let's say you have a stand, a stand in your house. On that stand you keep your television.
Mhm.
Like this. If this would be, see, this is a multi-purpose stand, right? It's used for people to talk from, put a safer on. But if I have such a thing, I presume in people's houses they have a stand that they keep the television on, right? It's not used for, and that stand, it's designated for use for the purpose of is for the purpose of holding the television, right? If you have a thing, if something is supporting a television and supporting something that's permitted, meaning if I have on this, if I would have on this stand before Shabbat, I have the computer closed on the stand, and I also keep on the stand my watch, my other things of importance. I keep on the stand. So the stand is supporting muksa and non-muksa items, right? So that's what I'm thinking about the dresser. And when the dresser is supporting the television, maybe it's also supporting all the clothing that's in the dresser. So you have to know how to identify that dresser. But if you have an item that's supporting both permitted and non-permitted items, right? Let's say this table. If you have a computer on the table, let's say they would leave a computer on the table before Shabbat, and they also have svarim on the table. They have a very important svarim. They have talit on the table. They leave the talit on the table, and they left a pen on the table. Or they keep the pen on the table. They keep the pens on the table, and they keep. So now the table is supporting both permitted items and non-permitted items. So the general rule is if the permitted items are more important than the non-permitted items, so then the thing that's supporting it will have the status of the more important item, right? But if this, and therefore, if the more important item is a talit, so therefore it will not, the stand will not be mokseh because it's designated for permitted and not permitted. If I can move, I would be able to move the stand. Um, but we saw there are halachot, right? But if you have something that's it's not having a dual purpose now, meaning we said if I designate a stand to hold the television, that stand has a status of a mukseh. Even if somebody takes the television fell off the stand on Shabbat, or somebody took the television off, whatever it was, the stand still remains mukseh because it was designated for use to hold the mukseh item. And so, so, so now, even let's say Shabbat came, the television was taken off the stand
Friday afternoon,
Friday afternoon, but this is what the stand is used for
all the time.
all the time.
And it's
So
the main thing it's used for.
right. And that's what it's used for. It's the main thing it's used for.
Anything else put on it is put on second day.
Right. So that stand is used for forbidden purposes. It's used to hold a muktzah item. So that stand would be muktzah. Boker Tov, good to see you. That stand would be muktzah.
But this one wouldn't because it's not, the computer's there just some of the time. It's not the main.
Right.
thing
So this stand that's holding. We're learning the Yane Mukseh. So this stand is sometimes used for a computer, sometimes used for the rabbi to speak from. Right. So what status does this stand have? So this stand is not now when Shabbat comes. So if when Shabbat came, the computer was on the stand with the intention to be on the stand. Let's say for Shabbat. Let's say what they did was they put the stand into that room before Shabbat. And that's how they left the computer on it with the intention to leave the computer there. We'll leave the computer there for Shabbat on the stand. And then the rabbi comes. The rabbi needs so the rabbi comes in and he finds he needs he needs a stand to, he wants to put a sefer on the stand. Someone wants to use it. So what status does the stand have? So now then what happened was one of the cleaning help took the computer off on Shabbat. On Shabbat, he took the computer off the stand. Now the stand has nothing on it. But when Shabbat came, the computer was on the stand. Bein Hashmashot. What did you say? It's called basis. So therefore, the stand was supporting the mukseh. And therefore, the stand will now have the status of the mukseh, which technically I could move this same way I should be able to move a computer if I need it for its place. I need the place where the computer is, or I need to use if I want to for to use the let's say to put some. It has more than you can't move to that computer. Are we so particular about a computer not to handle a computer? I don't know. Chassaron kiss is something that there's a status of mukseh that you're very sensitive. Because it's delicate. Let's say like a knife of a mohel, someone who does circumcision, or a shochet, someone does slaughtering. So because you're very careful, you're very concerned that you don't want the knife to get ruined. You very rarely move it. Only you move it when you for the purpose of the slaughtering, but you're afraid to handle it. Like it's fragile, so to speak, and it's used for forbidden purposes. Generally, I can't slaughter on Shabbat. So therefore, that knife is a higher level of muktzeh, not just that's called the muktzeh machmat chasar kiss. I might lose. I might have a. If I'm more separated from that's separated from me more. But I don't think unless it might depend how a laptop. How sensitive are people with a laptop?
I don't have my phone on my bed for party. Whatever. Oh,
Is your phone off or your phone on?
it was,
See,
it was on.
it's okay. So you should, if you move the phone when it's on,
Turning it off.
you might be doing issues, right? But I'm saying, but let's say the phone would be totally, you turned off the phone totally before Shabbat. You turned off the computer before Shabbat. What status would the phone have? What's that? People are always constantly moving their phone. It's not, or people are constantly, we live in an era, maybe when computers came out, maybe people are very sensitive dealing with computers, how much they touch it, how much they handle it. But I don't think a computer is a status of Chassan and Kiss. I don't think it's not like a knife of a slaughterer that he's going to be so worried about the blade. You know, the guy who you won't use the knife of a slaughterer of a shochet to cut an apple. You know, he's not going to use it for that because he's afraid that it's going to ruin the blade. It's a very big job to get the knife sharp. You could check it up.
No, I want to know Friday night. I'm not sure who should have done in that situation.
Right, okay, so you have the phone on the bed. The problem is if you move the phone, the problem that without affecting the electricity or anything. So technically, I mean, if you move it klachayat, there's no problem. If you pick it up like this, there's no problem. If you pick up,
Does it make my bed if I see stuff?
no, but sis, only if you intended to leave it on your bed before Shabbat, but you didn't intend to leave it on the bed.
You don't understand.
No, that's why I gave the example. They put it in the room there.
So
No, so no, I'm saying, let's say, I mean, if they wouldn't leave a computer in this room on the stand for Shabbat, but maybe they would leave a computer in a side room.
You told me the stands. So I'm here.
No, I'm saying you put it there. They weren't. They didn't. It's not that they needed this. It's not that they forgot. They intentionally. They weren't thinking they needed to stand for here. It wasn't they just was forgotten. It was a mistake. It should not have done. They intended. What's the halacha for Shabbat? You have your table, and you have your candelabra on the table, right? You use your table for other things, but the fact is, if you had intention to put the candelabra, the candlesticks on your table from before Shabbat, and you lit it there, good morning, Boker Tov. Now that table becomes a basis, the table supporting your light. Even when the lights go out, you can't move the table because the table have the status of that's a very higher level muktzah.
Actually, they put the earrings on it.
They put
So they can move it.
right, or they put chalot. They put chalot, earrings, anything of great value, and we treat the challah because it's so needed for Shabbat. That we put on the table before Shabbat. We have challah on the table before Shabbat. On the Shabbat table, the lady's going to light the candles. There's challah on the table.
That allows you to move the candles.
That meant not the candles, the table.
The candles you definitely can't move.
Right.
The
But
table-
only when the lights go out. Because when the lights are on, if you move the table, the light might fall, it might be other issues. When the light goes out Friday night or Shabbat day, you want to use it, you want to move the table, since you had the chal on the table, so the table does not become a basis, it not become a support for for a forbidden item. It was supporting a permitted item and a non-permitted item, and we treat because of the Shabbat, the need of challah, as if that's the chidush. That's why the earrings is a good idea, might even better than the challah, because the earrings are more expensive maybe than the candelabra. Therefore, it's more important. But we rely on challah, and I saw there's a sefer, maybe a Kitzur Hilchos Shabbat from Rabbi Posen. I think he says also not only challah, other things that are needed for the Shabbat could be not limited to challah, but right, that's what we do. So getting back to here in our Gemara, what the Gemara is saying over here regarding we have this bed, and this bed, if you did not designate the bed for the purpose of keeping money on it, right? Like just like this table, this stand is not designated. It's I use it for we use it for computer. When I don't have the computer on it, they're using it for other things, right? They it's only temporarily having the computer on it. So now, as long as if the laptop is not on it when Shabbat came, it does not have a status of muktzeh, right? That's what the Gemara is saying. Now, let's continue in the Gemara. Ama'ula. So, the Gemara said that if the bed was holding the mukseh when Shabbat came, we said the bed will be mukseh for the whole Shabbat. By the way, just get back to your case of the phone. You see, if let's say the phone was off, let's say you can move it in a way that it won't affect it, which you did. Now, first of all, if you would have a guy there, maybe it's probably, but again, to ensure that it won't affect, nothing will go on. You know what I'm saying? There won't be no electricity going on. But I would say, again, you could double check. A laptop should be a klisha malachtul isur. A phone should be categorized as a utensil that's use is for forbidden purposes. That's what I would think.
Also, clean up toilet issue.
Say it again.
Also, clean up toilet issue.
I'm saying that. What? How else would you identify? Meaning, if the phone is on, so then there is other issues, right? It's maybe you might you might be making the electricity, right? That's a higher level issue. Maybe muksa machmat isur. Maybe muksa machmat isur. Maybe it's a higher because maybe it's separated from me because I might if I hand move it, I might be doing a sin moving it. When I move a hammer, that's a kli. What's a hammer? A hammer is a utensil that's used for forbidden purposes. If I move a hammer, I'm not building by moving a hammer. I'm not doing a sin. I'm not violating the Shabbat. But the only way I'm violating the Shabbat by moving a hammer is because the rabbi said, "Don't move a hammer," because we're afraid we want to protect you, because we want to protect you that you shouldn't come to build with the hammer, right? What's the issue with the hammer? Have a great day. What's the issue with the hammer? I move a hammer. Did I do it? What did I do wrong when moving the hammer? The rabbi said, don't move the hammer. It's mukser because it's used for forbidden purposes. But if I move what? But if the phone is on, or if let's say the light is burning, I have a fire going, a menorah burning on Shabbat. Then that's called it's not a kli, it's not a utensil. It's a reality. I might be doing a sin if I move it. The oil moves away, right? If the oil moves or the oil goes out, the sin is happening. We call that reality. That's a higher level of muksa machmat isur. So I would think, again, you could double check, Rabbi. I would think, right? But I would think a phone, if it's off, or a computer that's off, should be categorized the morning as a kli shemalachtal isur. it's used for forbidden purposes. And therefore, if that's the case, therefore, what would be the law should be? The law should be if you need the place, you should be able to pick it up. You can check it up. If you what?
If the phone is off.
The phone is off, I should be able to basically I should be able to even without shinui, even by your hand. In the same way, the question is, this is the question. Is there morning Solomon? Is there a difference between a hammer? If you left a hammer on your bed before Yom Tov, morning Jack, right? You left the hammer on your bed. What's the law? You could pick up the hammer because I need the bed. I need the place. I need to go to sleep. I need the place. I could pick up the hammer. Is the cell phone that's off any different than the hammer? That's that. Okay, we have to look into it. See what the post can say. A cell phone that's off, should it be any different than a hammer? Think about it. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining. Remind me your name. Nice. Okay, beautiful. Where you have a shul somewhere in Brooklyn? Which one? Shari Zion, beautiful. Have a great day, everybody.
The sixth, actually.